Have you ever pressed a button and arrived somewhere that shouldn't exist? We trust elevators, we trust numbers, we trust that the world follows rules. But what happens when the numbers lie? Tonight's case came to me from a software engineer, a rational man, a man who believed in logic, in systems, in certainty. He checked into a hotel, pressed a button, and arrived on a floor the building didn't have. Most hotels skip the 13th floor. Superstition, fear, but this hotel didn't skip it. It hid it, and it only appeared when it wanted to be found. Let's open the file. But remember, some mysteries are better left unanswered. Marcus Chen had always believed that problems were meant to be solved. In 20 years as a programmer, he'd untangled code that would have made most people weep. He'd debugged systems at 3 in the morning, found bugs buried in 10,000 lines of logic, tracked glitches back to their origins like a hunter following tracks in snow. So when the company sent him to a conference in a city he'd never been to, a sprawling metropolis somewhere in the Rust Belt, all grey skies and old brick, he approached it the way he approached everything, methodically. Ticket booked, hotel confirmed, schedule mapped. The hotel was called The Arbor, a grand old building from the 1920s, the kind of place that had seen better days, but wore its age with dignity. Marble floors in the lobby, brass fixtures gone slightly green with time, elevator doors that looked like something from a black and white film. Marcus checked in at 9:47 p.m. He remembered the exact time because he always remembered exact times. The woman at the front desk was pleasant but unremarkable. Middle-aged, professional smile, handed him a key card for room 1157, 11th floor. The elevator was old but functional. Marcus stepped inside, pressed 11, and watched as the brass arrow above the door began its slow climb upward. Floors ticked by. 2, 3, 4. Marcus checked his phone. 3 emails from work. A text from his sister asking if he'd arrived safely. 5, 6, 7. He typed a quick reply. Made it fine. Already at the hotel. Talk tomorrow. 8, 9, 10. The elevator slowed, then stopped, but the doors didn't open. Marcus looked up from his phone. The brass arrow pointed exactly between 10 and 12. He waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing happened. He pressed the door open button. Nothing. He pressed 11 again. Nothing. And then, with a soft mechanical sigh, the elevator resumed its climb. Upward. The arrow crawled past where the 11th floor should have been, past 12, and stopped at 13. The doors slid open. Marcus froze. He'd read the information about the hotel in the lobby. The Arbor had 14 floors, but like most American hotels, the 13th was skipped. The button panel in the elevator confirmed this. The numbers jumped from 12 straight to 14. There was no button for the 13th floor. And yet, here it was, right here. Beyond the open doors stretched a hallway. It looked almost identical to what Marcus had glimpsed on other floors. The same burgundy carpet, the same brass sconces, the same cream-colored walls. Almost identical. The lighting here was dimmer. Not flickering, nothing so dramatic, just weaker. As if the bulbs were older, fainter, tired. And the hallway was longer, much longer than it should have been for a building of this size. It stretched into the distance for a length that made no architectural sense. Doors lining both sides at regular intervals, numbers ascending, 1301, 1302, 1303. Marcus didn't step out. He pressed the door close button firmly. The doors remained open. He pressed 11, then 12, then 14, then L, for lobby. Nothing responded. The elevator sat motionless, doors yawning wide, waiting. 3 minutes passed. Marcus wasn't a superstitious man. He didn't believe in luck, good or bad. He didn't believe in ghosts, curses, or things that go bump in the night. He believed in electrical malfunctions, in aging systems, in circuits that needed repair. But something about this hallway made his throat tight. The silence was wrong. Hotels are never truly silent. There's always the hum of ventilation, the distant whisper of televisions, the soft thud of footsteps above or below. But the 13th floor offered nothing. Absolute, perfect, consuming silence. Marcus pulled out his phone to call the front desk. No signal, not weak signal, no signal at all. The icon showed emptiness, as if the phone had forgotten that cell towers existed. He was still staring at the empty bars when the elevator doors began to close. Slowly, much slower than they'd opened. Marcus watched them slide toward each other, watched the gap narrow, watched the burgundy hallway disappear inch by inch. And in that last sliver of space, a moment before the doors met, he saw something. A figure, standing at the far end of the hallway. Too distant to make out features, too still to be accidental. Watching. The doors closed, the elevator hummed, and when Marcus looked up at the brass arrow, it pointed at 11. The doors opened to a perfectly ordinary hallway. Brighter lighting, the soft hum of an ice machine around the corner. Room 1157 was exactly where it should have been. Marcus slept poorly that night. He told himself it was jet lag, an unfamiliar bed, too much coffee on the plane. He told himself that old elevators malfunction, that his eyes had played tricks in dim lighting, that the figure had probably been a fire extinguisher or a housekeeping cart. He told himself a lot of things. Morning helped. Daylight has a way of making the previous night feel like a strange dream, slightly embarrassing in its intensity. He went to the conference, sat through presentations, ate mediocre lunch, exchanged business cards with people he'd forget within a week. Normal, ordinary, rational. But when he returned to the arbor that evening, he found himself hesitating at the elevator. He took the stairs. 11 flights. His legs burned by the time he reached his floor. On the second night, Marcus had a dream. He stood in a hallway, burgundy carpet, cream walls, brass sconces casting weak amber light. He knew, with the certainty that only dreams provide, that this was the 13th floor. He walked. The hallway stretched before him, endless, doors drifting past on both sides. 1301, 1302, 1303. The numbers climbed but never repeated, never reached an end. And behind him, always behind him, he heard footsteps, not pursuing exactly, more accompanying, matching his pace precisely. When he walked, they walked. When he stopped, they stopped. He didn't turn around. In the dream, he understood that he shouldn't turn around, that some rules were absolute even here, especially here. The footsteps never got closer or farther. They just continued, patient and inevitable, a shadow woven from sound. Marcus walked until his legs ached, until the hallway blurred, until the dream released him. He woke at 3:33 a.m. The room was dark, quiet, normal. But for one moment, for a fraction of a second before consciousness fully returned, he could have sworn he heard footsteps outside his door. Then, nothing. On the third night, Marcus made a decision. He was an engineer, a problem solver. He didn't believe in running from anomalies. He believed in understanding them. The elevator stood with its doors open in the lobby, brass panels gleaming in the chandelier light. Marcus stepped inside. He was alone. He examined the button panel carefully. 1 through 12, then 14, then 15, and up to 16. The rooftop restaurant. No, 13, as expected. He pressed 14. The elevator climbed. The arrow crawled. 2, 3, 4. Marcus watched carefully. 8, 9, 10. The elevator slowed. The arrow pointed to the space between 10 and 12. The doors opened. The 13th floor waited, exactly as before. The same burgundy carpet, the same cream walls, the same impossible length stretching into shadow. But this time Marcus noticed details he'd missed before. The room numbers were wrong. Not wrong in the sense of damaged or illegible. Wrong in the sense of impossible. 1301, 1302, 1303. But then 1347 appeared next to 1304, and 1312 appeared next to 1347, and a door simply marked with the letter M stood between numbers that shouldn't have existed. The sequence followed no logic. The numbers seemed almost random, as if someone had assigned them in feverish delirium and then forgotten why. Marcus stood at the threshold of the elevator, 1 foot inside, 1 foot out. The hallway breathed. He felt it, a subtle shift in air pressure, a gentle expansion and contraction, as if the floor itself were alive, inhaling and exhaling in a rhythm too slow to be natural. And then he saw the door, room 1357. Straight ahead, maybe 30 feet down the hallway. The door was slightly ajar. Just a crack, just enough to see the darkness beyond. Marcus stared at that crack. The darkness stared back. He stepped backward into the elevator, pressed the door close button. This time the doors obeyed instantly, sliding shut with a mechanical whisper. He descended to the lobby, walked to the front desk, asked, as casually as he hoped, about the building's history. The night clerk was a young man with tired eyes. He blinked at Marcus's question. The 13th floor? There isn't one, sir. Most hotels skip it. Superstition and all that. But was there ever a 13th floor? In the original construction? The clerk frowned. I don't think so. The building's always been like this. 12, then 14. Standard. And no one has ever reported anything unusual with the elevators? Something flickered across the clerk's face. Recognition? Fear? It vanished before Marcus could identify it. The elevators are old, the clerk said carefully. Sometimes they skip floors. Sometimes they stop where they shouldn't. The engineers are working on it. Working on it for years. The clerk's smile was thin. Some problems take a long time to solve. On the 4th night, Marcus didn't use the elevator. He didn't use the stairs either. He sat in the lobby until late into the night, working on his laptop in a leather chair by the fireplace. The fire had long been extinguished, not the season, but the chair was comfortable, and the lobby felt safe. At 2:15 a.m., the night clerk approached him. Sir, we need to close the lobby in 15 minutes. Fire code. Marcus nodded, gathered his things, headed for the stairs. But as he passed the elevator, the doors opened. No one had pressed the button. No one was inside. The brass arrow pointed firmly at L for lobby, and yet the doors slid apart, wide and waiting, as if inviting. Marcus kept walking. Up the stairs. 11 flights. When he reached his room, he was breathing hard. He fumbled with the keycard, stepped inside, locked the door behind him. The room was dark except for the glow of the city beyond the window. Orange streetlights, distant flicker of cars. Marcus froze. Something was wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not obviously wrong, just shifted, rearranged. His suitcase, which he'd left at the foot of the bed, now stood by the closet. His phone charger, which he'd plugged in by the nightstand, was now neatly coiled on the desk. His toiletry bag from the bathroom, which he'd left open, was now zipped shut. Small things, tiny things, the kind of things you could explain away with housekeeping, forgetfulness, unreliable memory. But Marcus remembered. Marcus always remembered. He searched the room methodically, under the bed, in the closet behind the shower curtain. Nothing, no one. He checked the door, still locked from the inside. He checked the window, still sealed shut. And then he noticed the Bible. Every hotel room has a Bible, tucked in the nightstand drawer, placed there by well-meaning organizations for travelers in need of comfort. Marcus had opened that drawer on the first night, looking for a notepad. The Bible had been there, black leather cover, gold letters, untouched. It was there now, but it was open. Open to a page marked with a strip of burgundy fabric, the same burgundy as the carpet on the 13th floor. Marcus leaned closer. The marked passage was from Ecclesiastes. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Next to the verse in the margin, someone had written in pencil, "Room 1457 is waiting." Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in the chair by the window, staring at the city lights, waiting for dawn. At some point, he didn't know when, he began to hear it. Quietly, rhythmically, from somewhere close. Footsteps. Not outside the door this time. Not in the hallway. Above him. Slow, measured footsteps crossing the ceiling, moving from one corner of the room to the other, then back again. Marcus was on the 11th floor. Room 1157, which meant the footsteps were coming from room 1257, on the 12th floor. But there was no room 1257 on the 12th floor. The 12th floor had rooms in the 1240s, 1250s, 1260s, but room 57 should have been directly above his location, in the same position as his own room. And room 1257 didn't exist. The footsteps continued, back and forth, back and forth. Patient, unhurried, eternal. Marcus pressed his palms to his ears. The footsteps didn't get louder or quieter. They just continued, as if they'd always been there, as if they'd always be there, pacing through a room that shouldn't exist, in a space that defied the logic of floors, numbers, and architecture itself. Dawn came at 6:47 a.m. The footsteps stopped. On the 5th day, Marcus checked out of the Arbor. He requested a different hotel, a modern one, all glass and steel with electronic keycards, with floors that ran in sequential order and elevators that responded predictably to buttons. The front desk clerk processed his checkout without comment. The total was ordinary. The receipt was ordinary. Everything was aggressively, almost desperately, normal. But as Marcus turned to leave, the clerk spoke. "Sir?" Marcus stopped. The clerk was looking at the computer screen with a strange expression. "This is odd. Our system shows you stayed in room 1357, but we don't have a room 1357. We don't even have a 13th floor." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "I stayed in 1157, he said. 11th floor." The clerk typed something, frowned. "That's what I've corrected it to. Must be a system glitch." He looked up with a professional smile. "Safe travels, Mr. Chen." Marcus walked out of the Arbor and didn't look back. But here's where the story takes its final turn. 3 months later, Marcus received an email. It was from a former colleague, someone who'd attended the same conference. She mentioned in passing that she'd stayed at the Arbor the previous week for a follow-up meeting. "Strangest thing," she wrote. "The elevator got stuck between floors for almost 5 minutes. When it finally opened, I swear I saw a hallway that shouldn't have been there. Burgundy carpet, dim lighting, numbers that made no sense. And I could have sworn I saw someone standing at the far end, just watching." Marcus stared at the email for a long time. Then he typed a reply. "Did you see room 1357? Her response came 30 minutes later. "How did you know?" "The door was slightly open. I didn't go close. but I had this strange feeling that it wanted me to, like it was waiting for someone, like it's still waiting. Marcus never responded. Some doors, he understood now, aren't meant to be opened. Some floors exist in the space between numbers, in the gaps we create through superstition and fear. And some rooms wait with infinite patience for the right guest, at the right time, when the elevator decides to stop where it shouldn't. Room 1357 is still there, in a building that has no 13th floor, waiting, always waiting. Subscribe for more mysteries from the files.